Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Erin, author of Mind Your Own Business. Let me grab my book right here. Wanted to share with you how you can get this for free, and the creator of the Amped Business and Life Academy. So first and foremost, so happy you're joining me here. I can't wait to talk about all things mindset. And I thought, since we're talking about mindset, I would love to offer you a copy of my #1 bestseller on Amazon, Mind Your Own Business, 21 Days to Train Your Brain for Unstoppable Success. Would love to offer this to you at no charge. What you want to do is you want to text the word book to amped 77330. So that's text the word book, and the numbers for that is 267-337-7330. Again, it's 267-337-7330. So thank you so much for joining me. And in today's training, I want to take you through my 3-step process that I believe can completely and radically change your business and your life. So thank you again for joining, and let's get to it. So I want to help you identify the one thing that is keeping you from designing a business and a life that you're obsessed with. The one thing that's creating a gap between where you are and where you want to be. Now, if you're here, I know some things about you. You're a mission-driven entrepreneur or professional, and I want to honor that. You want to make an incredible income doing what you love, monetizing your passion and your purpose. You want to make an impact, and you not only want to reach the next level of success in your business and your life, but you want to create significance in your life and the lives of so many others. And my mission is to help you do that as quickly as possible. So I want to help you reach your next level of success, your next breakthrough. Now, that might be different for all of us. Maybe you're wanting to break through to your 6-figure mark. Maybe it's the 7-figure mark. You want to break through that income ceiling. Maybe it's not about income, but you want to become an expert or an influencer in your space. You want to be known as a thought leader, or maybe you want to become a more powerful leader in your organization. Or maybe you want to simply create some balance in your life and not neglect the things that matter to you most, like your health and your family, etc. So these are such noble purposes, but you might be feeling something different. You might be asking yourself things like, is this really possible? Is it ever really going to happen for me? How do others make it look so easy? Can I really make the kind of money I want to make and enjoy my family, relationships, relax, and have fun? Maybe you're feeling like you're right on the brink of burnout, like this business you started has somehow become the greatest source of stress in your life, and you're working 12 to 14-hour days, you're working really hard, and you're wondering, am I even getting ahead? Where's my progress? Or you're a doer and you've been doing, and you know it's not sustainable. Maybe you've been going from strategy to strategy, from program to program, from conference to conference. But quite frankly, you aren't seeing the results that you think you should be seeing by now. And you might even feel like you're one bad decision away from it all going away. And you're at the end of your resources, and if you can't make this thing work right now, you're going to have to quit altogether. And I can tell you, I can relate to all of those scenarios. Over the last 15 years of being a business owner and entrepreneur, I've experienced all of those things I just mentioned. I've been through the ups and the downs and every stage of growing a business. I've had great success, and I've also had struggles and failures. And, I remember getting to the point and asking, am I even meant to do this? And I remember having a heart-to-heart with God, asking God, show me, use this, like reveal to me Why am I suffering so much? Why isn't this happening for me? What am I doing wrong? Is this great success even meant for me? What am I supposed to be learning from this? And I remember getting to the end of it all and pleading with God, please just don't waste my suffering. Please reveal to me why I have been on this journey. So I won't go over my entire story with you here, but over the last 20 years, I got some answers. I got my doctorate in psychology and clinical psychology, and I've been a clinical psychologist for the last 17 years, studying and specializing in cognitive behavioral psychology and positive psychology. I became a self-proclaimed self-development junkie, as I like to call it, attending as many conferences and reading as much as I possibly could get my hands on in terms of mindset, personal development, neuroscience, sales, business success, strategy, spirituality. And what I've realized is this: the times I suffered most in my business was when I was spending the majority of my time on my business and the least amount of time on me. And when I turned around and started working on me is when everything shifted. I finally broke through my income ceiling and cracked the code on business success. I built a 6-figure coaching and consulting business in 1 year. I've helped hundreds of clients create and scale their own successful businesses. I earned the award of the Professional Saleswoman of the Year in the state in which I live. I became a 4-time best-selling author and lead my own sold-out one-day live events internationally, all while enjoying the journey, maintaining my energy and my health, and enjoying my family and other relationships. And I realized the key to all of this has been mindset. The big shift in my business, the big shift in my bank account, the big shift in my ability to inspire others, to enroll my ideal dream clients, all came when I decided to work on me first and focus on my mindset. There's a saying that businesses are won or lost in the 6 inches between your ears. And I'm here to tell you that not only does my experience support that, but so does the science. So in this training, my mission is to convince you that mindset is the most important thing to focus on if you want to take your success in business to the next level. And it's not magic, it's science. So let's talk about it. Okay, this mindset work we're going to do isn't your typical mindset work. So up until now, mindset work has really been about things like reading a self-help book, going to conferences, getting excited, jumping up and down, returning with the same brain that you had before the conference, or even the proclamation of some kind of grandiose affirmation that's posted on your bathroom mirror and reciting it every morning. And as a psychologist, I know mindset. The mindset work I'm talking about is actually brain change. There's fancy words for it. It's called neurosculpting and positive neuroplasticity. And it's what my doctorate is in, what I've paid over $100,000 to be an expert in. And it's the application of these scientific principles of how the brain actually works and throwing all of that at your business. So let's start by looking at how the brain actually works. So the first thing to understand is every thought you've ever had is simply a result of your brain collecting all of the data it's ever collected so far and attaching a meaning to it. And that is what we call a belief. So you have an experience, you attach a meaning to it, and you get a belief. The second thing to understand is that, it's possible with the psychology technology that I have. It's possible, and I'm going to show you how to uninstall or delete these negative limiting beliefs and install and replace them with positive, useful, and powerful thoughts. And when you learn to do this, everything in your business and your life will change. You will not only create massive business growth, that you've been desiring, but you're going to know how to keep creating success for the rest of your life. So the first thing I want you to do is identify what I call the gap. So the gap is that space, you know it, it's between where you are and where you want to be. That's the gap. And what happens, so maybe you're at 50K and you want to go to 100K. Maybe you have 5 team members and you want to build to 15 members. Maybe you are at a certain weight and you want to drop 20 pounds. There's a gap between where you are and where you want to be. And what happens in the gap is what I call the resistance. It's what your brain creates whenever you start thinking about how to close the gap, how to get something you've never had before, how to create something you've never created before. It's called the resistance. It's the limiting belief or set of beliefs that prevent you from getting to the next level in your business. And it might sound something like this. That's crazy. You've never been able to make that much money before. Or who do you think you are? Or you're delusional. That could never happen. Or I'll ruin my relationship if I go after my business goal. Whatever it is, that's the resistance. And I simply want you to observe it right now. Okay, let's talk about the brain. The brain's job is to keep things safe and predictable. It's the mammal primal brain. Its job is to keep us safe and to keep things predictable and orderly. So let's look at what the definition of being an entrepreneur is. Entrepreneur is someone who takes risks and tries new things. So when we understand that this resistance that pops up is just what brains do, we can start to have a different relationship with the resistance. And I want you to realize something. I want you to realize the resistance doesn't come from outside of yourself. The resistance doesn't come because you don't have enough money or time. The resistance doesn't appear because you don't have the right strategy or resources. The resistance isn't that the market's saturated with people who do what you do and you can't compete. None of those are the resistance. None of those are the problem. The resistance is what is coming from inside of you, and you are unaware of the fact that you have a belief that is not in alignment with what you're wanting to create. In psychology, we call this cognitive dissonance. So let me give you an example. It's like, on the one hand, you might have the thought, I want to make more money. And on the other hand, you might have the thought, money's hard to make. That's resistance. That's the cognitive dissonance. So I think you can see the importance of figuring out how to move her through the resistance. And I'm going to show you how. I want to start out with sharing with you 2 pieces of good news about how our brains work. And they might not seem like good news, but once I explain them, I think you're going to agree with me that they are indeed good news. So the first piece of good news is not all your thoughts are true. Not all your thoughts are true. You might be saying, how the heck is that good news? Well, let me give you an example. If all my thoughts were true by now, I would be broke, hopeless, never figure it out, never have success, not a good mother. I could go on and on and on. Thank God, not all of our thoughts are true. Okay? The second piece of good news is you cannot control all of your thoughts. Again, both of these may appear on the surface to be bad news. Okay, so let's look at the first one. You might be saying, well, if I can't believe all of my thoughts, then what can I believe? Let me help. The brain is like this giant computer. It receives inputs since the day you were born. Its job is to make sense of all the inputs it's receiving. So for example, let's say as a child, you overhear your parents arguing about money. Your brain collects that data, and its job is to store that data, make meaning of it, and apply it to future situations and new data points when they appear. So your brain might conclude, there is never enough money, and money causes problems between those I love. Now, as a business owner who wants to make massive wealth and create an impact in the world and create financial freedom, this thought is a problem and creates resistance. So true freedom and personal control comes when we realize that not all of our thoughts are true, that they are often automatic, unwanted, uninvited, and simply how our brain has interpreted past experiences. Okay, so the second piece of good news is you cannot control all of your thoughts. Again, on the surface, this may appear to be terrible news. You might be thinking, but I want to be able to control my thoughts. Isn't that what creating a great mindset is all about anyways? So let's look more closely at what I mean by this. You cannot necessarily control your first thought based on what I just explained, but you can learn to rewire the brain and control your second thought. So I'll say that again because it's profound. You can't necessarily control the first thought, but you can rewire your brain and control the second thought. And once you do, you can change the actual structure of your brain, creating new neural pathways that will then make it more likely that the positive, helpful thought becomes your first thought. That's called neurosculpting. Isn't that exciting? So imagine your brain is like a highway system or all these pathways in the grass, these trails. And the more you think a thought, the more traveled that pathway is and the deeper the groove becomes in your brain. And over time, as you create new pathways, the grass kind of grows up on the old pathways. They're used less often, and the brain takes the new pathway. This then becomes the way you actually control your thoughts. So how does one do this? How does one actually create a new neural pathway and change their brain? The power comes in what I call the observer stance. So what I want you to understand is the first step in changing your mindset is learning how to observe your thoughts, how to be an observer of your thoughts. You know, the easiest way I've ever was able to teach this to my clients is imagine, like, I just grabbed a pen here. Imagine you're a newscaster and your job is to notice and report on every thought that your brain is having. That's your job. So imagine being a newscaster of your own brain and imagine putting the words, "I'm having the thought that," in front of every thought you have. So, oh, look, Erin's having the thought that she may not actually ever reach her goals. Oh, look, Erin's having the thought that she might embarrass herself speaking today. Oh, look, Erin's having the thought that, on and on and on, okay? So when you can get this observer stance of like noticing what your brain is coming up with in terms of thoughts, that is the first powerful step. Become a newscaster, an observer of your own mind, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to think about your big goal for the next 12 months. And it's a stretch goal. It's something that's, you know, something you get really excited about. It's a big stretch goal, 12 months from now. What is one big goal you have? I want you to get that in your mind's eye. Maybe write it down. Maybe it's to double your income. Maybe it's to become a paid keynote speaker. Maybe it's to lead your sales team to become high performers. As you think about your goal, I want you to notice the resistance that immediately shows up. The internal voice inside of you that has something to say about it, okay? I want you to think about what that thought is and write that thought down or document it or notice. What is the thought that pops up in your mind when you declare and think about your big goal? Okay, whatever it is, I simply want you to observe it. Because remember, it's mindset first. You can learn all the tactics, all the strategies, all the marketing platforms, and I can teach you all of those as our relationship unfolds. But in order to use all of those to their fullest potential, you're going to need this unshakable mindset. Okay? So congratulations, you've taken the first step to train your brain for unstoppable success. Observing your thoughts is like your superpower to create a business and a life you're obsessed with. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about the second step. The second step I want to teach you is the psychological technique to remove those negative limiting beliefs and replace them with powerful beliefs. It's called Bless and Release. And I would say it's the most powerful technology that I have in my Mind Your Own Business method. Okay? So the second step, Bless and Release. We're going to be talking about the power of understanding your thoughts and the power of radical acceptance of those thoughts. Okay? We're going to be talking about how to remove once and for all any internal conflict, which we've named the resistance, that you might have that's keeping you from achieving that next level of success in your mission-driven business. So if you're here, you've identified some gift that's inside of you, some calling over your life or your career that you know that you've been equipped to fulfill and help people with. And we've identified that what prevents us from taking our business to the next level isn't a strategy or technique, it's our mindset. So our brains can become what I say our best business partners, or they can be these really dangerous neighborhoods to hang out in, okay? Our brains, you can think of it like this, can even become like your greatest venture capitalist, or they can rob you of your dreams completely and take you out of the game. So what happens when you step outside your comfort zone and start to create something new in your business and new in your life is it triggers these thoughts that have been there for years and years. As you start bumping up against the ways your brain has learned to attach meaning to those events in your life. And you're in your business and you start taking risks. You know, one of the greatest definitions of entrepreneur that I've ever come across is someone who creates something of value despite massive amounts of risk. Okay, so we talked about the first step, you know, the brain's job is to keep us safe, to keep things orderly and predictable. And so our brains do not by default love taking risk. They don't automatically love it when we step outside of our comfort zones. But we know, you know, the problem is our success depends upon our ability to do just that. So this second step, I want to teach you how to break through the resistance. And it's simpler than you think and more profound than you can imagine. And it's the one thing I would say that nobody in personal development world is teaching. And if you don't know how to do this technique, it's like jumping into quicksand. You and your dreams are going to just be covered up and disappear. But if you know this technique, you're just going to leap over the quicksand, taking one step further to your potential. Doesn't that sound awesome? So again, this technique is called Bless and Release. So again, let's bring into your mind's eye that negative limiting belief that's been keeping you from reaching the next level of success. It's that first thought that pops into your brain when you think about your big vision and your big goal. Okay, so for some of you, the resistance sounds something like this. I don't have any business growing a business, or who do you think you are, or you're not an expert, or are people really going to pay me for this, or money is hard to make and even harder to keep, or I'm not the leader I need to be and that I would, could never manage a multi-million-dollar business. Okay, so we've identified that thought. So the first part of the bless and release is to bless your mind for bringing the resistance. I know it sounds crazy, but you heard me right. So if the brain's job is to protect you and keep you from harm and keep you from taking risks or keep you from failing, I would say it's doing a really great job, right? It's just what brains do. So the first part, the bless, is thanking your brain for trying to do just that. So it might sound something like, thank you, brain, for trying to keep me safe. Or thank you, brain, for trying to preserve my reputation. Or thank you, brain, for trying to save me from bankruptcy. Or thank you, brain, for trying to protect me from looking like a fool and falling on my face here, okay? The power in blessing your thoughts is what psychologists call cognitive diffusion. So cognitive means thoughts. If they're fused, if you're stuck to your thoughts, we want to become unstuck with our thoughts and have cognitive diffusion, We want to separate from our thoughts, observe them, so that we can kind of separate from the believability of the thought. Remember, not all your thoughts are true, and not all your thoughts are in your control. So if we can defuse from our thoughts, we have a chance. So thank you, brain, for throwing this thought at me to try to keep me safe. Okay, so it's in observing your thought that you're able to change your relationship with it and decrease its negative power. Another way of blessing your thoughts is through understanding kind of why it makes perfect sense you're having the thought you're having. It's one of my favorite phrases because it really helps us get to the root of validation, self-validating, like, why does it make perfect sense I'm having this thought? So, by the way, all these thoughts you're having about your business and your ability to fulfill on your dreams, remember, they're called beliefs. So beliefs are a pairing of some experience you've had and a meaning you've attached to it, okay? So when we look at cognitive and behavioral psychology and human development research, we know that most of our beliefs are installed and established in us at a very young age, usually before the age of 7. And these experiences then shape the structure of our brain and how our brain works moving forward. So let me give you an example. My entire life growing up, someone in my family told me that I was a horrible storyteller. So you can imagine when I had a dream to become a world-class keynote speaker, that this learning and this meaning I've attached and these memories reared their ugly head and tried to take me out of the game. I remember driving to lead my first one-day live event, and my brain started coming up with all the reasons why I should turn that car around. It was like, you are horrible at telling stories. Don't you remember? No one's going to want to listen to you for 8 hours. What if you run out of things to say and totally embarrass yourself? And what I knew to do, though, and what I want you to practice is, again, looking at those negative thoughts, what we're calling the resistance, and asking, why does it make perfect sense that those thoughts are showing up right now? Oh, it makes perfect sense those thoughts are showing up because I'm getting ready to go speak. So now that we understand why it makes sense that our brain is sending us these thoughts, we still want to learn how to make them go away. I get it. We still want to learn how to make them go away. So one of the greatest things about being an adult is you now have the power, developmentally speaking, over choosing what beliefs you want to adopt as true and those that you don't. It's the power of decision. So this is where the release part of the bless and release comes in. So here's where we're going to activate what we call reframing or challenging your thought. And here's where I want you to tell yourself, the good news of maybe how things have changed, the rules have changed, how you're different than you were when you adopted that belief as a child, and learn how to make the case that the fear or the resistance that has showed up is no longer relevant or true. So here's what it looks like in my example. Thank you, brain, for trying to protect me from looking like a fool speaking on stage, but I'm okay now. I hired a speaking coach, I'm prepared, and I'm actually a great speaker now. So it sounds a little bit like a pep talk, but us psychologists call it reframing. And here's the best part about reframing. As you practice this technique, you're actually rewiring your brain. You're restructuring and creating new neural pathways that your brain can go down. New synapses fire and connect and create new beliefs that serve you. So, and these new beliefs become strengthened over time through use and repetition, and you actually change the structure of your brain and create a new normal in your brain. One that allows you to then take on challenges, one that allows you to step outside of your comfort zone and take risks, one allows you to keep moving forward in your business. So I hope you're realizing as we go through this exercise that you no longer have to have this adversarial relationship with your brain. Your brain is simply doing what brains do, collecting all the data in your life, attaching meaning to it, and then storing a memory about it for use in the future, all to keep you safe and protected. Okay, so now let's go on to the third step. So the first step was understanding the power of the observer stance, noticing all the thoughts in your brain. The second step was bless and release. Thank you for sending me that thought. Try to keep me safe. I no longer need you. I'm safe now. And now step 3 is where it gets really fun. And I call this the power of the pivot. And the power of the pivot means now you get to make a new decision. And I have so many people that say to me, Dr. Erin, really, is it just that simple? I just make a new decision? Like, I just make a new decision. I don't have to be in therapy for years. I just make a new decision. And I say, yes, it's as simple as that. You make a new decision. Because let's look at it. In the first place, these were decisions that you made involuntarily in the first place, before your brain was fully formed, before you had any say in how you felt about those decisions. So you now get to move from what I call a place of probability to possibility. And what I mean by that is your brain operates in a primal way based on probability. So it says, what's the data so far that you've made $1 million? 0. Okay, so the probability is, the brain's like, the probability is that's really low that you're going to do that. So let's try to keep you safe. But our brains have the option and the technology and the availability of creating something out of possibility. So I want to tell you about a study from Harvard Medical School, and they studied and they hooked up to the brain, put all these electrodes on the brains of these pianists, and they brought the pianists in and they noticed the brain activity when they were playing the piano. And then they brought another group in, the same group actually, when they weren't actually playing the piano, but they were just imagining playing the piano, and the same parts of their brain lit up. And so the brain doesn't know if you're telling it a lie, if you're telling it a truth. The brain doesn't know, are we actually making $1 million because you're depositing in your bank account, or are we just thinking about that? So what it does is it stores a memory of that. Oh, wow, I've just made my first $1 million. I'm celebrating that. And now it's a goal-achieving machine, and it goes looking for the data and the situations and circumstances to make that thing happen, to make that future that memory of a future event that is stored in your brain about that visualization that you just did, to make that a reality. That's how powerful your brain is. That is how powerful your brain is. It truly is your best business partner and your venture capitalist. So what you do in the step 3 in the power of the pivot is you simply choose something different. So you choose, or you say, now I choose to believe this, or now I choose to go do this. So in my speaking example, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm going to make a fool of myself. You're a horrible storyteller. Thank you for showing up and trying to keep me safe, but I've actually trained how to do this, that I'm good now. And now I'm going to choose to go lead my one-day live event. Here we go. That's what it looks like. So the power of the pivot is you choose a new thought or choose a new belief. You say, well, what do I think about those old rules? I don't really believe that anymore. I think this. I choose to now believe this. And you create a new reality for yourself. So that, my friends, is the power of mindset. Let's call it mindset 2.0. It's not your old mindset, right? It's not rah-rah, shish kumbah, let's get motivated, inspired. Let's actually change our brains. So I hope you enjoyed this. I can't wait to hear from you how it changes things in your life and in your business. And I will see you next time.